Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. Today I'm up to song number 2186, and that one is Who's Crying Now by Journey. This came out in 1981. Here's a picture of the single. It was also released on their 1981 album called Escape with the same picture. I guess kind of fancy looking space. It's like a bug coming out of a bubble or something. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. But anyway, here's a picture of Journey around the time they recorded it. They were a pretty big band from San Francisco, where I used to live. A pretty great band, I think. I used to really like them. Anyway, I'll get into them later. Before I start, I decided to feature this one at karaoke. So stick around till the end of the video to watch my karaoke version of this song, which I think is a very pretty song, a very heartfelt song about heartbreak. Anyway, I'm gonna start by talking about this song, "Who's Crying Now." Um, it was a big hit for Journey. It went to number four in 1981. And I think they were a pretty great band. Maybe I should talk about the song first, though. Like I said, it's another song about heartbreak, but a pretty complicated one, I'd say. I mean, basically, what they're singing about in this song is, it's a relationship that's on the fritz. It's not going well, and or maybe that's already after their breakup, and they're both heartbroken about it. I guess they've both been hurt. They've been through a lot together. And the title of the song, "Who's Crying Now," is kind of like who's really the one who's the most hurt here. I think we're both really hurt. I think we're both trying to move on. And I guess we just kind of gotta get over each other and move on, which I think is probably the right attitude after a painful breakup. So pretty powerful song, pretty melancholy melody too, as you can probably imagine from the content I just described. Anyway, I think it is a really good song by Journey, and I guess that's enough said about the song. Now I guess I'll talk about the group. Um, Journey was another really big group from San Francisco. There were a lot of really big rock groups that got their start in San Francisco. As a matter of fact, I'd say there were sort of two meccas for a lot of very innovative rock and roll. I think the first big one was England, obviously, because all the British invasion bands, in the early to mid '60s came from England, like the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and all them. But I think the second mecca was San Francisco. The Summer of Love, the Haight Ashbury. That's when a lot of the psychedelic rock groups got started, like Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead and a lot of other ones. And there continue to be a lot of great musicians from San Francisco even after the hippie era in the late '60s. In the '70s we had groups like Santana and the Steve Miller Band, and I guess one of the later ones that came out of the '70s was Journey. And I remember when Journey first came out, when they first really started becoming popular. I mean, they actually got started in 1973. I think they had a whole different lineup when they started. They all started with different bands, by the way. They'd already been members of other bands. But they were originally together from '73 to '87, and then I guess they broke up in '87, but then they reunited in 1995, and they're still together today, although I think they have all different members now. The original lineup included former members of Santana, Neil Schon and Greg Rowley. Neil Schon was their lead guitarist, and Greg Rowley was their lead vocalist and keyboard player. I just learned this today, actually. I always thought Steve Perry was always their lead singer, but apparently not. He didn't come into the group until 1977, it turns out. And I didn't even know about Journey until 1978 when they had their first top 40 hits. So anyway, but then besides them, Greg Rowley was eventually replaced by Steve Perry, like I said. But then they also had Russ Valerie from the Steve Miller Band. He was their bassist, and they had Prairie Prince from the Tubes. He was their drummer. So that was the original lineup, and I don't know who the people are in this picture. I think Steve Perry's one of them, but I think most of the other ones are the ones I mentioned. Um, anyway, that was Journey, and I guess now I'll just go through their hits. Like I said, I remember. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry about that. I remember when they first came out. When I first started hearing their hits, the first hit was in 1978. It was called "Wheel in the Sky," and that was a minor hit. It only went to number 57 nationwide, and then they followed that but with a song called "Anytime," which went to number 83, and "Lights." That's one of my favorite songs by Journey, actually, "Lights." But "Lights" only went to number 68. And I remember the album that these songs were released on. It was called Infinity. That was the first really big album. And I owned this album, and I loved it. I listened to it many times. And, even though they didn't have any big national hits yet, I thought they were really great. And they did play their songs a lot in the Bay Area where I was growing up, because that's where they were from. So I used to hear these songs. I don't think I ever heard any time on the radio. It was on their album. It was sort of, that was segued from feeling that way. But they used to play "Wheel in the Sky" a fair amount on the radio, and then later "Lights," and those were both really great songs, I thought, and a great album, Infinity. And they followed that up the next year, 1979, with their second big album, an album called "Evolution," and that generated some other big hits. The first was called "Just the Same Way." That was a minor hit too. That only went to number 58. But then they had their first top 40 hit song called "Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'" that went all the way to number 16. I think I want to say one thing about that song, actually. This is on my list. I have several more songs by Journey coming up on my list, by the way. I think they're a really great band. Kind of probably an underrated band, actually, at least early on. But "Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'." I don't know if you know this song, but it ends with a big chorus. Na 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 na. They go on for almost the second half of the song with that chorus. And I counted the number of times they say "nah." It's 154 times. But it's not the record. "Hey Jude" has more "nahs." "Hey Jude" by the Beatles has 263 "nahs" at the end of it. That's counting the ones that Paul screams out. They're out of sync with the chorus. Just thought I'd mention that. But anyway. Yeah, and then they followed that up with a song called "Too Late" that went to number 70. And then in 1980, they had a song called "Any Way You Want It." That was their second top 40 hit. That one went to number 23. Another pretty excellent song, I think. And they followed that up with "Walks Like a Lady," which went to number 32. And then they had a two-sided hit called "Good Morning Girl," and the flip side was "Stay a While." That went to number 55. There was another song in the early 70s. I can't remember the artist. They had a hit called "Stay a While." I don't think it's the same song. And then they had a song called "The Party Is Over," subtitled "Hopelessly in Love." That one went to number 34. And then in 1981, they had the song I'm featuring today, "Who's Crying Now." That was their biggest hit at that point, went to number 4. And then they followed that up with "Don't Stop Believin'," which is probably their best known song. It's one you hear all the time. And for some reason, that seems to be the only Journey song most people know. It's not even my favorite. It is on my list. It's actually pretty high on my list, but it's not the highest Journey song on my list. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. But anyway, "Don't Stop Believin'" went to number 9. And then in 1982, they had actually their biggest hit, "Open Arms." That one went to number 2, just missed the top spot. And in case you're interested, "Open Arms" is on my list, but it's not the highest Journey song on my list. And then they followed that up with "Still They Ride," which went to number 19. And then in 1983, they had a song called "Separate Ways" that went to number 8. They followed that up with "Faithfully," which went to number 12. And "After the Fall," which went to 23. And "Send Her My Love," which also went to number 23. In 1985, they had a song called "Only the Young," which went to number 9. In 1986, they had "Be Good to Yourself," which also went to number 9. "Suzanne," which went to 17. Girl Can't Help It, which also went to 17. I don't think that's the same Girl Can't Help It that Little Richard had. But I like Little Richard's version. And then they also had a song called I'll Be Alright Without You, which went to number 14. And then 1987, they had Why Can't This Night Go On Forever, which went to number 60. Finally, in 1996, I guess that was after they reunited again, they had a song called When You Love a Woman, which went to number 12. So quite a few hits for Journey. They were a very big band. I mean, I thought they got a little too commercial towards the end of their career. I like the early stuff, the minor hits a little bit better. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I grew up in San Francisco and was exposed to them early on. But that was Journey. Pretty great band, I'd say. Now, I guess without further ado, I will sing the song Who's Crying Now to karaoke. So sit back and enjoy. It's been a mystery, and still they try to see why something good can hurt so bad. Caught on a one-way street, the taste of bittersweet. Love will survive somehow, some way. One love feeds the fire, one heart burns desire. Wonder who's crying now. Two hearts born to run, who'll be the lonely one? Wonder who's crying now. So many stormy nights, so many wrong or rights. Neither could change their headstrong ways. And in a lover's rage, they tore another page. The fighting is worth the love they'll save. One love feeds the fire, one heart burns desire. Wonder who's crying now. Two hearts born to run, who'll be the lonely one? Wonder who's crying now. Only so many tears you can cry till the heartache is over, and now you can say your love will never die. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa. One love feeds the fire, one heart burns desire. Wonder who's crying now. Two hearts born to run, who'll be the lonely one? Wonder who's crying now. Stroke heartbreak. that's it, actually. Gotta wait for the instrumental part to fade out. You did have pretty great electric guitar. Okay, I think that went pretty well. That was my karaoke performance of Who's Trying Now in the style of Journey. So anyway, that completes my feature on Who's Trying Now by Journey. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time.